Good afternoon, Director Millibar. It is now 1:30 and we're letting members of the public into the meeting.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is Acting President Martin Millibar. We're starting the August 15th, 2024 board meeting of the Delta Conveyance Design and Construction Authority. I will be chairing this meeting today. Thank you for joining us. I would like to call the meeting to order and ask Ms. Rodriguez to call the roll.
Gladly. Good afternoon, and board members and members of the public. Vice President and Acting President Martin, Director Millibar, sorry. Present, thank you. Director Martin.
I'm present.
Thank you. Director Luna. Right, Director Estremera.
Present.
Thank you. Director Chang.
Present.
Thank you. Director Anaptawi.
Here.
Thank you. And Director Weed.
Here.
And welcome, Director Weed, to the DCA board.
Director Luna, just right.
Yes, here.
Thank you. And then I'd also like to acknowledge alternate directors in the room. We have alternate director Plinsky. And online, I did see alternate director Lamoureux as well.
We'll move on to item 3, closed session. Well, we'll now move into item 3. This is the closed session to discuss the potential litigation item on the agenda. Ms. Rodriguez, any public comments on this item? And do we need to define the item at this time?
Director Millibar, we have not received any public comment requests for this item, and I would look to Josh to add any information.
No, Director Millibar, the item is listed on the agenda and up on the screen if folks are interested. Thank you.
We'll reconvene from closed session. Josh, any report on a closed session?
Thanks, Director Millibar. No reportable action.
Okay, we'll start the regular meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Right? Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. First item is the motion to approve the minutes of June 20th, 2024. And is there any public comment, or do you wait till you approve them?
We ask for public comment, but at this time, we have not received any public comment requests for this item anyway.
So we need a motion to approve the minutes of June 20th, 2024.
Director Millibar, I would move.
I'll second that.
Okay, move in second. Roll call. Do we need roll call?
Gladly, yes. Director Millibar,
Yes.
Director Martin. Do we have Director Martin back online? Director Luna,
Aye.
Director Estremera. Give me one moment to confirm that we have participation from both of those remote sites. Director Millibar, so I'm contacting my counterparts to make sure that we're able to see them and that they have audio as well. Martin and Director Stamera.
President,
here.
you need to tell him you're here again and tell him about the minutes again.
Okay, thank you. Director Millibar and Graham, Josh, I defer to you on calling that item again.
So Directors Estromera and Martin, we have a motion and a second for approval of the minutes. And Claudia is calling the roll. Are you comfortable voting, or would you like us, or would you prefer to abstain from this item?
No, I want to vote. I vote yes, aye.
Thank you. Director Martin,
Aye.
Director Chang,
Aye.
Director Anaptawi,
Yes.
and Director Weed.
This is my first meeting as a board member, so I'll abstain.
It's approved.
Okay, and we'll move on to item 6, discussion items. The first item, August monthly board report, Graham Bradner.
Thank you, Director Millibar. I'll wait for Claudia to pull up the monthly report. So welcome to the new fiscal year. We've got our new monthly report prepared. So Claudia, if we could first skip to section 1. We're talking about July 2024 activities in this section of the report. As per typical, at this time, we're focused on a lot of financial and controls related topics. We're closing out the financials from last fiscal year, which ended June 30th, as well as ramping up and rolling out the new task orders and contracts based on the budget approved by this board in June. So a lot of different financial activities as we wind down last fiscal year and then start up and get going on the new fiscal year. At the same time, we've got several other program related topics underway. I'll just highlight a couple. Specifically, the board approved the sustainability policy last year. And so we've been working on efforts to advance that policy into our first sort of programmatic sustainability management plan. And so we've been continuing to push ahead with that and working on what we're calling our strategy development. So this is helping us understand how we will develop the sustainability goals and metrics, reporting requirements, et cetera. And so all of that would be captured in a programmatic plan, but we're just working our way through that process. So that strategy is still underway. We've also been working on a number of other quality and health and safety items, internal audits with program team members and various aspects of the project. Connected to the quality side, we've also been doing a process optimization review. So this is looking through all of our internal processes within the DCA, as well as those that require cooperation with our partners, making sure that we've got a well-founded basis for those processes. And as we think about the years forward, there will be a lot of augmentation and potential modification of those processes. We want to make sure that we're comfortable and happy with the foundation that we have now as we consider building out and adding new processes in the future. On the administrative side, we continue with our support services, both to the directors and also for our tours with various groups that want to go out and review the preferred project alignment. We've also got the activities down here to improve some of the audio issues in the boardroom. So I look forward to getting those taken care of and in place for better use of this system. On the engineering front, our primary efforts continue to be supporting the Department of Water Resources permitting efforts. At the same time, we've continued with the public rollout of the updated total program cost estimate. So that's been through a number of presentations. We'll continue to do that through the fall, likely helping to acquaint folks with the new information, making sure they have an opportunity to hear from us how we develop that information, and tend to couple that with presentations from the department's consultants on the economic analysis that was performed using that information as one of the principal inputs. In addition, we're working on what we're calling the Preferred Project Engineers Report. So there's a lot of engineering documentation that's available to support the environmental impact report. That was for 3 alignments, up to 4 different flow rates. So a lot of information included in the available engineering project reports. Some of that was supplemented through additional addenda and various other memos that were prepared to support that environmental analysis. Now that there is a preferred project selected by the department through the final EIR for further study, we're stripping out a lot of the extraneous information connected to other alignments no longer in consideration, so that we have one cohesive engineering document that includes all of the engineering basis for the project as it's described in the environmental impact report. That's mainly an internal document for starters, but it will certainly be really a key foundational document for future procurements. So we're capturing all the engineering backup information now in a place that's more user-friendly and a little less dispersed as the current reports would contain. So that's another effort we're working on now. As part of our cost estimate development work, we also started development of potential design innovations, which could reduce cost, schedule, or risk. We're going to continue working on those innovations. We captured a number of really reasonable and credible innovations as part of a secondary estimate with the cost release, and we're going to continue to work on those innovations and consider potential additional innovations here in the coming months. So that's going to be a key focus for us as well. The Fieldwork team, they finished their spring program. There's still laboratory testing and documentation work that's going on. And then with the current status of the preliminary injunction, the field teams are dormant for the time being, but there's a lot of cleanup work that's happening now to just make sure we've got all the data in final, documented well into our databases, incorporated into our models, and available for engineering team use. Claudia, if we could go now to the section 3 budget summary, please, for the current fiscal year. So we have our adopted or approved budget of 43 million. This budget has been established within our program control system. We've committed out in terms of contracts and task orders, 33.664224 million. At this point, we are showing an underrun or a surplus on the budget of 6.4 million. That's due to the investigative work that's currently suspended for the summer and fall programs, or really for the entirety of the fiscal year. And so as a result, we haven't committed those funds. We're holding back. So at this point, we're showing this underrun as a reflection of the investigative work that we have not issued in terms of contracts. Otherwise, we really haven't incurred significant charges to date. You can see incurred to date $351. So as we sit here in August, the first invoices for July have started to trickle in. What you see here reflected in the 351 are those prepayments that we typically get out early. The rest of the contractor invoices are working their way through the process.
Are there any questions from, are you done?
I have just a couple more, but I'll take questions anywhere, Director Millibar. So.
Make sure you're done.
Okay. So Claudia, now if we could go to the budget for last fiscal year. So this is the time of year where we contain the financials for the current fiscal year, but we also carry the financials from last fiscal year until we're fully closed out. So this tends to stretch out here for a few months while we receive all the final invoices from June or any other last fiscal year invoices, process those, finalize them, and then eventually close out the fiscal year. So until we're closed out, which tends to be around the October, November timeframe, we do carry both financial summaries within the monthly report, and that's for transparency and so that we're able to communicate what the sort of the end and final values are for the fiscal year. So Claudia has up the budget summary for fiscal year 23-24. So now we're looking at last year, we had the approved budget of 40.44 million. At this point, we've got total incurred at 31.22 or 233. We've got estimate at completion just slightly more than that. So you can see the difference here is some of the finalizing that we need to do to resolve things and put the finishing touches on the fiscal year financials. As we sit here now, we're forecasting an underrun of about 8.8 million. And as you look up through the table, you can see the surpluses and where they landed connected to the engineering or connected to the fiscal year activities. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the financial performance last year. In general, my take on this is that it's not anything that I think we should have done that we didn't do last year. There are a number of items that we had anticipated and budgeted at the beginning of the year that we elected not to engage in or not to fully implement. In addition, as we do with every year, because of how we run our fiscal year cycles, we tend to carry a reasonable unallocated reserve, which last fiscal year we really did not ultimately tap into. So overall, I look at the outcome of the year from a financial performance perspective, and I'm happy with the performance of the year. Lastly, Claudia, if we could just go to the schedule at the very, very back of the report, section 5. So this is our fiscal year program schedule. So this lays out the major activities broken into the what we call the phases. And I'm sure the board will remember the discussion on phases back at the budget approval process. We've got the program management phase, program implementation, and then some of the early pre-design, pre-implementation elements of program delivery, which is at this point generally Geotech. We are showing within the program delivery Geotech subschedule activities that would include a summer 24 program, a fall 24 program, and spring 25 program. Again, those were part of the plan when we developed the budget. So we think it's the right thing to do to acknowledge that plan and acknowledge those activities, even though they're currently enjoined. We'll just track those through the fiscal year and acknowledge them as we work our way through the year. Otherwise, we have a bunch of activities that we're just getting started on, and I'll make the board aware of any of these that appear to be lagging or need attention as we review these monthly reports. That concludes my summary. Director Millibar, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to hear.
Questions from the board or anybody?
Yeah, thanks, Director Millibar. Graham, thanks for the overview. On page 13, I appreciate, so when I look at the bottom line, you've got about 8.87 million in underrun. And, appreciate the fiscal prudence. When I look at it, looks like, there's big chunks in engineering and then also in the executive office. In the engineering part, I know that one of the activities I think we were delaying was the project definition report. Could you maybe speak a little bit to the executive office underrun?
Sure.
Please. Thank you.
Most of that is the unallocated reserve. So that's where the reserve is contained within the overall budget structure, and that's close to 2 million. Actually, if you go to the next page, in this case, table 2A, you can see more detail about what's contained under those high level items. And so Director Chang, you can see the undefined allowance as a surplus variance of 1.85 million. So that's the majority of what we're flagging for the executive office.
And as you pointed out before, Graham, these refinements to save money and carry it over help us fund through 2025. Is that correct?
That is correct. These are funds that were originally authorized for a scope of work that was anticipated through the end of 2024. At this point, we are on track to stretch those approved funds all the way through the calendar year of 2025.
Very good. Do we have any public comment requests, Claudia?
Director Millibar, we have not received any requests for this item.
Are there any other questions from anybody in the audience or from the board? If not, we'll move on to item 6B. we're going to consider a resolution approving the Second Amendment to the AECOM Technical Services, Inc. agreement for geotechnical and fieldwork services. And we'll start with the staff report on that.
Good afternoon, Board. My name is Adrian Brown. I'm the Chief Contracting Officer. Before you, we have a resolution to request recommendation to extend the contract with AECOM. AECOM provides our geotechnical exploration and reporting services. AECOM received their contract through a formal public competitive solicitation that was conducted in late 2021. The contract expires this January of 2025. Based on the fact that they are heavily involved in providing geological service information to the DCA and its operational and management requirements, staff would like to recommend that we do a 23-month extension in order to continue their services at this juncture.
Are there questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Director Milbar. Mr. Brown, thank you for the report. And I'm certainly supportive of, continuity with, the services, and I don't have a problem with the recommendation. I guess maybe the question I have is, can you remind me, okay, the contracting process that we have that we're following, and I know you talked about it before, so forgive me for not remembering. Are we following, like Metropolitan's contracting process, or is it amalgamation of, some other best practices?
Well, so the board did eventually adopt its own purchasing and procurement policy. I believe it was a year and a half ago. So we are following that particular policy, but at the time, I believe this was in place at the time, and a request for qualifications was conducted.
The only thing I would add, Director Chang, to your point is under our joint powers agreement, we do follow the procurement rules applicable to Metropolitan Water District, except as modified by the JEPA. There's some additional requirements we agreed to in that contract with the department.
Right. I guess maybe the crux of my question is, at some point, it seems like it makes sense to go back out again. But, right now, it seems like AECOM's so heavily invested in, these geotech efforts that, to go out and, redo the procurement process seems like it would be extremely disruptive. I mean, so I'm just looking for confirmation of that.
Director Chang, I'll jump in here if that's okay, Adrian. We did consider sort of the status of the geotechnical program and the data collection program. At the time the contract was reprocured, we were thinking about the conclusion of the planning and permitting phase and aligning this contract with that period. The board will recall early last year, we revisited the JEPA to actually acknowledge that the planning and permitting phase doesn't stop with conclusion of CEQA. We've still got several other major permit activities that are ongoing. So thinking about this the scope of the geotech contract was really intended to align with that planning and permitting phase, which is likely to extend through the end of 2026. There would be a need certainly to procure a larger scale geotechnical contract associated with the implementation phase, but we're not there yet. The work that we're intending for the next couple of years is absolutely more in line with what we've been doing the past couple of years than it is with the work that we would do as we transition in the implementation phase.
There is isn't there an increase in the funding for the contract?
That's correct. We've asked for just about a doubling of the contract capacity. It has a current capacity of 30 million. We've asked for an increase up to 65 million. That's reflective of the level of work that we've scoped out for the next couple of years. So this would take us through the end of calendar year 2026, and the capacity increase that we're asking for would be reflective of the work we anticipate during that period.
Was a lot of the additional expense because you now can define all the geotechnical information that you need for the new alignment, for the approved alignment, and so all of that work had to be added on to the extension. Is that correct?
I guess I would characterize it a little differently, Director Millibar. We're still trying to understand the alignment that's been selected by the department for further study. We are focused more at this point. The previous years prior to the selection of the preferred project was really more focused on delta-wide conditions. So we had a lot of investigative work spread out throughout the delta, trying to just fill in major gaps. We still have significant gaps along the Bethany alignment. And that's what this work is intended to try and provide more information on. But still, this doesn't ultimately replace what will need to be done for the implementation phase, which is design level investigative work. But this would be a step in that direction.
So maybe you can enlighten us a little bit on how you determined the extent of the increased expenditure.
Yeah, so we looked at the existing alignment. We have all of the information that either we've collected or we've pulled in from other sources included in our databases now. So we're clearly able to identify gaps within the system. We have substantial gaps of subsurface information along the tunnel alignment, some cases several miles between existing data points. So that really limits what we are able to understand about conditions along the tunnel profile. So as we consider plugging some of those gaps, we're not targeting a design level ultimate spacing, which could be somewhere on the order of 500 to 1,000 feet along the tunnel alignment, but something broader than that. But again, helping to fill in those data gaps and provide some context that will be informative as we refine the project, consider potential innovations in the future, and ultimately position this project for consideration at the implementation phase.
So there could be adjustments to the cost of the new, what we're going to approve today.
I do not anticipate additional adjustments to this contract. I think the term that we're requesting would extend it through the end of calendar year 2026. And the addition to the maximum capacity on the contract should be sufficient to cover the work we've identified. But I mean, I will say, Director Millibar, if something changes in that, we will absolutely come back to the board and explain the basis for those changes and talk at that time about what may be needed, but I don't anticipate at this time.
So the most expedient process was to extend this contract, add the necessary additional funding, and then proceed the way we are now, rather than doing everything over again, which I think would be inefficient.
Yes,
So
that's correct, especially given that the scope and scale of the work intended for the period of extension through 2026 is generally consistent with the scope and scale of the work identified in the contract and which has been performed annually for the past 3 years.
Yeah, and you've been happy with the work that they've done so far.
We have, that's correct.
Well, if there's any other more detailed questions.
Yeah, just one more. Thank you. So Graham, no, appreciate the explanation and the clarifying questions. Okay, so we're asking for additional 35 million or so, like you said. I guess my question is, how much of that? So we already adopted the budget for 2025 going for next year. How much of this increase is actually baked into the FY25 versus 26?
So the budget that was adopted in June, the $43 million included costs for geotechnical exploration, and those are sufficiently covered by the current budget contract. But the issue is we don't have the time coverage for the full fiscal year. So we do need that amendment to do any work in the second half of the fiscal year. But the funds were fully covered. Now we're thinking about the follow-on years when we consider the request for potential additional contract capacity.
Okay, well, if there aren't further questions on this item, we need a motion to approve a resolution.
Motion for approval.
And do we have a second?
I'll second. Here you go.
So we can do a roll call here.
Firm Director Millibar, there's no public comment request for this item.
Thank you for reminding.
And, all right, so Director Millibar,
Aye.
Martin,
Aye.
Director Luna,
Aye.
Director Samara,
Aye.
Director Chang,
Aye.
Director Anaptawi,
Yes.
and Director Weed.
Aye.
Okay. And, since
Approved.
Approved and there was no public comment. We'll move on to item 6C. We're gonna consider a resolution approving the Second Amendment to the Launch Consulting LLC agreement for information technology services. And we'll go through the same process with we'll start out with the staffer report and proceed from there.
Again, at afternoon board, in this instance, this particular company, Launch Consulting Services, provides the DCA with IT services. In roughly 2019, a request for proposal, a formal competitive solicitation was conducted, and this firm, although under a different name at the time, was selected to provide those services. When the original contract was drafted, it was contemplated that this particular set of services and firm would carry through the length of the project. The contract was also drafted to allow the DCA to enter into 5-year extensions, and this is the first of the 5-year extensions. So we're proposing, staff is recommending to add an additional $2.97 million to the contract to get it through to the next 5 years.
And so that what's the total cost then of the contract?
The total max compensation would now be $5,270,000.
And it has, there could be other extensions that you mentioned?
Yes, the original contract was set up to be able to allow 5-year extensions through the life of the project.
So is there any detail you want to add to that, Graham?
Other than to say we are satisfied and happy with the services provided and feel this is in the best interest of the organization.
Mr. Chair, if you're looking for a motion, I move that we move forward with the Second Amendment to the Launch Consulting Agreement for IT Services.
Director Millibar, we do have a question from Director Anaptawi.
Oh, okay. Proceed.
Hey, thank you, President Mulbar. Yeah, the question was really, how are we, well, these are, I assume, time and materials contracts. And how have those rates been increasing year over year? Are they kind of in line with what we expect with inflation and or some CPI? And I guess second is sort of what, just sort of in the same vein as some of the questions in the last item, what in your opinion would sort of trigger interest to recompete these types of things? Just curious.
Well, to the first point about the amount of compensation requested, so the contracts manager did have a extended conversation with the firm in question and reached the amount that was desired to be able to increase the contract amount to get us through the next 5 years. In regards to at what point in juncture, if the DCA was unhappy, say perhaps with the performance of the contractor, the contract does contain clauses in which we can actually release the contractor. Some would call it a termination for cause or without cause. And at that juncture, we could do a brand new competitive solicitation if necessary.
Thank you for that.
Any other questions about this contract? I think we already have a motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second, so roll call.
Director Millibar,
Aye.
Director Martin,
Aye.
Director Luna,
Aye.
Director Samara,
Aye.
Director Chang,
Aye.
Director Anaptawi,
Yes.
and Director Weed.
Aye.
Any public comment requests?
No, Director Millibar, no public comment request for this item.
Okay, very good. Then we'll move on to item D, 6D. DCA board appointments for offices, president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. These are biennial appointments. And it's open for discussion. No set plan of how we do this. It's pretty much up to the board. And so
I have a question, or actually not a question. I think we have guidance on which way to go about whether we go individually or we go as a slate. So do we have to discuss whether we go as a slate, or can a board member make a recommendation on which way to go through this?
Either way, Director Luna, if you have a recommendation, you could provide that at whatever time you feel is appropriate.
I do have a recommendation, and we'll leave it up to board members whether they want to discuss it. I propose we move forward as a slate. And I would nominate Director Millibar to be president, Director Estrella to be vice president, Director Martin to continue as secretary, and I don't know if we have to vote separately, but the treasurer, of course, Ms. Catano.
Appointed.
Is that proper, or
Yes, it is.
my motion, and either we get a no or a yes and find another way?
do we have a second of that or more discussion?
I'll second that.
Second.
With that, I think we had two people talking at the same time.
I-
Was it Robert?
I certainly was one of the seconders, but
Procedurally, I think it's just asking for if there are other nominations. A nomination need not require a second. Okay, thank you.
I wasn't aware of that, but that's fine. So do we do a roll call vote or?
Yeah, so we had a motion for a slate and a second. So I would recommend we just check to see if there's any public comment, and if there isn't, we can move to a roll call if the board's ready to do so.
Okay. Any public comment?
Or there is no public comment request for this item.
Okay. How come this thing keeps turning off?
So
It shuts off and I'm laying right here.
Director Millibar, that's part of the project we're working on for the room.
That IT.
It's never red, you know?
Yeah, I fought with it earlier in the meeting, so yes, they can be problematic.
Good.
Okay, well, I guess we can do the roll call vote then.
Okay, so just to confirm. President, we have President Millibar, Vice President, Director Stromera, and Secretary, Director Martin. Capture that correctly?
As well as the treasurer.
And Treasurer Catano, correct.
Yeah, that's,
Right, calling the roll. Or the vote, sorry. Millibar,
aye.
Director Martin,
Aye.
Director Luna,
Aye.
Director Stromera,
Aye.
Director Chang,
Aye.
Director Anaptawi,
Yes.
and Director Weed.
All right.
Okay, well, now we have. new
Congratulations.
Officers. So we'll move forward with 6E, which is some recognition of the DCA intern program update. And I think Graham will enlighten us on what happened and maybe someone else.
I will enlighten you to Marcy Scott, who is our HR manager and
Very
really led the charge with the internship program this year. So I'm happy to hand it over to Marcy.
Thank you, Graham. Make sure my microphone comes on. And thank you, Board Chair Millibar and all the board members and everyone who's here. It's my privilege to be able to give you an informational report today on the 2024 Summer Intern Program hosted by the DCA that was recently completed. And next slide, please. We had 4 interns this summer, and there they all are. We had a graduate student from UC Davis. She's received her bachelor's degree in anthropology and environmental studies and is currently at Davis studying environmental policy and management. We had 2 undergraduate civil engineering students, one at UC Irvine, one at UC Davis. And then we have an undergraduate student from UC Santa Cruz who is studying environmental studies and economics with a minor in statistics. And these 4 students finished their finals on June 14th and came to the DCA to start their internship on Monday, June 17th, which demonstrates their enthusiasm and commitment to learning this summer. And so the next slide, please. And why do we have an internship program in the summer? We find that it's a real win-win for all of us here that participate. These students learn a lot about statewide water resource issues. Generally, they have some base knowledge. UC Davis has an excellent curriculum. It has a lot of interesting water classes, but we really expand their minds and they get to understand the dynamics that go on around water resource issues statewide and how they're interconnected and so many different entities are involved. It's a great opportunity for them to learn about public sector work and the impact of the public sector on large, difficult, and complex projects. They're able to learn about a lot of different career paths. They've been studying basically their whole conscious lives. They've been in school. And so this is an opportunity for them to see all the different career paths that exist and to learn from the technical experts that work on this project through the DCA, as well as our colleagues at DCO and DWR. And they learn about work in a professional setting. We probably forget that one day we were stepping out of academia into professional work, and it's a big change. So all of these things are really beneficial for the next generation. And next slide. And just to touch on a few of the activities, the first day of the internship, we take the students to the local Museum of Science and Curiosity. This is the Sacramento Municipal Utility District. It's a local museum and they have an excellent display on water and water resources. And we have our tour guide Claudia here taking the interns around. And just as an example, you see this bar graph. This is representing a data set that that shows the statewide percentage of the average water content of snow, of the snow measured every April 1st. And look at that variation. The first data point on the left is 1950, and it's up through 2023. And you can see the wide variation in our water content up in the mountains. So at any rate, it's a great baseline for the students and a good learning opportunity. And next slide. The students were very pleased this year to be able to have an opportunity to sit down with board members who were here for the June board meeting. This was also in their first week. They had a lunch and learn, and they looked at all of the backgrounds of the board members and the deep experience and knowledge of water really impressed these students, and they enjoyed hearing the stories and how you all ended up here in public service. Also, the students were able to attend the board meeting and learn about public meeting protocols, why we have these processes that we have for transparency. Next slide. The students went on a Delta tour. They spent the day out in the Delta. They really enjoyed looking at the fish screens. That was something new to them, and we had a hard time pulling them out of there, in fact, to get back on the bus. Next slide. And the students were able to take a tour of the Geotech lab. They were able to see what kinds of testing processes occur, the equipment that's used. And they were able to touch some of the different soils and really come to understand how important this information is in informing the engineering work and the design work that is occurring on this project. So that was a really great experience for them. And next slide. We also host both formal and informal discussions throughout their time here. The picture on the left is one of our tunnel experts showing them the tunneling machine and how it works. There may have been an incident where some pieces had to be taped back together after the showing, but it all worked out okay. And on the far right picture is one of our members of our sustainability team talking about the various different ways we can incorporate sustainability concepts into this program and how that's being contemplated and considered right now. We have some lunches with staff to talk about career decisions. And one of the most favored part of the internship program is always the career talks. We had about 10 formal career talks from various folks within the DCA, and everybody's path to the DCA is different. And it's really important for these students to understand they don't have to have everything figured out right now. They'll have opportunities along the way, and make sure you say yes. And next slide. And we thought we'd provide for you a few examples of some of the work that the interns were able to work on. It was helpful this summer in which we have a more defined project, and also the cost benefit analysis had just come out the month before the internship. So this was a lot of information for them to absorb. We had a student work on a mock geotech investigation plan. So she created her own plan and had to think through all the components. They worked with all kinds of technology, developed Gantt charts, used Excel in ways they hadn't done before. And their final day of the internship, they have to give us presentations about everything they learned, how that might inform their path going forward. Next slide. And lastly, some real highlights for the interns was really getting to understand the complexity around resource management in this state, and also how important it is, and understanding long-term planning, as well as looking at public and private sector, how they can work together, how they work differently. And really, almost most importantly, was learning about communication skills, good writing, learning about technical writing, and being able to talk about engineering concepts in a way that people can understand. And lastly, these students have really high goals, and I think this experience helped them see a means to achieve their goals, such as how to enact positive environmental change. Next slide. And so many people to thank who support this program. Of course, the board members, again, that was a real highlight for them to be able to meet board members and talk to you. Shavs and Associates is the employer, and they go beyond being an employer, but they help mentor these students. And then we have our formal mentors that work very closely with the students, and a variety of staff from both the DCA and the DC Finance Authority who gave career talks, and all the DCA staff who work together. And then the last slide that I'll leave you with is a good news slide that we can all be glad that the future is bright. These students are really very impressive, very committed, and very enthusiastic. So that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, Ms. Scott, how many interns have gone through the program?
I've had about 13. Yeah.
Tabs on them, or and reach out to them? And
Yes, that happens both ways. Yes, in fact, we were talking about that earlier. We should do some features of what they're doing now. We had one intern go through the Senate Fellow Program. And we did have one intern come back and speak to the next class of interns. So we're gonna keep a list so we can keep track of them.
I just want to say, I bet they're all as bright as the ones that just exited the program, but having had the pleasure of interacting with them, I do agree with you that the future is bright. They were just so thoughtful and so intelligent in their questions and inquiry about the work that we were doing, but also how they were going to use that to relate it to their personal stuff. So thank you for that experience. I appreciate it.
Also, I assume everybody got a letter. I got a letter from one of the students, and it was very well written and appreciative. I was gonna, provide a response, but I didn't get around to it. But I appreciate that that they did do that. That was very good. Any other questions? Robert always has a question.
Waiting, so.
Oh, Tony's waiting?
Here,
Okay,
on your mic.
Tony.
And just a quick comment that I am strong supporter of the internship programs. Water Education Foundation has an active program and this will be, would complement that. Thank you.
Chair Millibar, I have a comment.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I just want to thank Marcy and the DCA staff on making this such a comprehensive and meaningful experience for these kids. I mean, it's really important for these kids, young people rather. It could mean the difference in proceeding with their chosen path or not. I think it was an excellent decision to have the internship program, but then to follow through and to have such a wide-ranging and comprehensive program. I very much appreciate it.
Yeah, I agree with that too. It's a great program. It'd be nice if you could have like 10, but maybe that's too many to corral, But what is the largest group that you've had?
We had 5 at one time.
That was probably a handful.
That was the first year. Yeah. Well, and we're also getting better as we go too. Yeah.
Well, there goes my light off again. But anyway, thank you very much for all the time you put in. And it would be, like Director Luna said, it'd be nice to kind of know where they end up, 2 or 3 years from now. That'd be good information. Any other questions?
Maybe just.
Oh, go ahead, Robert.
Ms. Scott, really appreciate, all the efforts that you put into this, having gone through the metropolitan system. And you guys have a very robust internship program and, we benefit, the industry has really benefited from that. I think, a couple of comments on that. I think one is, just the mentor, allowing the companies, allowing the mentors to do what they do is hugely valuable. I recognize a couple of names off that list and they're really top-notch people. And I think on your slide 10, the 4th bullet really caught my eye, which is about communications. And, I think as technical people, we kind of, tend to go into our technical speak. But I think one of the things I learned over the 3 decades I've worked in this industry is like, if you don't know how to communicate, from early on in your career, I think you're really kind of stifling yourself. So really, really happy to see that bullet, being emphasized here. So thank you for all you do.
You and many people contribute to this program. It really is a group effort. So thank you to all of them.
Okay.
Director Millibar, we do have Tony and, Director Estamera and Director Onaptawi who have comments.
Okay. Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, I just wanted to express my appreciation for the program. I think it's a great program. We have a number of programs here at Valley Water because we know that we've got to grow our own. So I'm glad that we have such a vibrant program there. And I also want to suggest that you let them know that we have a all-year program, internship program. They're welcome to come and work with us too. Thank you.
Yeah, that was Tony's way of saying, Graham, you know, we're sending them your way. And Director Anaptawi, you had a comment?
Yeah, just real brief. I was a bit bummed I couldn't make it out for the lunch and get to meet them, but I mean, big kudos to the team at DCA. It's hard to run an internship program that is really good, you know, that leaves the students with a good lasting impression, some good hands-on experience, but not just busy work, but also sort of the many layers of complexity that includes getting to know the types of careers in our business, the types of challenges, the way we communicate, the way we work. These are all important facets of the work we do that it's not very apparent in academia when we're in school. So it's really clear you guys have a really well-designed program. I may be asking for some of your templates or some of your concepts that you've implemented, but it's clearly a really good program. So big kudos to you, Marcy, and the team that helped these interns through. So thank you.
Very good. So all thank yous for your work. And we'll see you again next year, right?
Next time, yes.
Okay.
Great.
Good. Well, if there is no more questions of Marcy, we'll move on to item 7, reports. Before we start reports, we do have a change to public comment on this section. We will take all public comment on the staff reports and an announcement now before we do the reports. If you like to provide any comments, just let us know. Mrs. Rodriguez will attach you to us. Do we have anybody that's interested in making a public comment on reports?
President Millibar, we have not received any public comment requests for the staff reports at this time.
Okay, we'll proceed into 7A, General Counsel's report. Josh.
Thanks, President Millibar. My report, as always, is in the packet. I did want to highlight one note in there, which is the recent Attorney General's opinion about directors attending meetings remotely as an accommodation under the Americans with Disabilities Act. Historically, when the Attorney General has looked at whether there is a requirement to provide a remote attendance for a director with a qualifying disability under the ADA, the AG has historically determined that they were not, and that they were required to comply with the either in-person or teleconference rules. In light of the changes that we've seen to the Brown Act due to the COVID pandemic, there was a request to the AG to provide their opinion on that issue again. And in light of the changes to the Brown Act since that time, the Attorney General determined that there is a requirement for local agencies to provide an accommodation for qualifying directors to attend meetings remotely. In those situations, directors can attend from a private remote meeting location as long as they use two-way video and audio streaming and disclose the identity of anyone over the age of 18 in their room. The board will remember those are actually the requirements under AB 2449, and so really track those. The difference would be, of course, that under the Brown Act, there are limits on the number of times in a calendar year a director can use those provisions. Under the ADA, there would be no requirement. So this, of course, is something that we can utilize if appropriate in the future, and we can work with an affected director in that instance. I'm happy to answer any questions on this or anything else in the report. Thank you.
Okay, I think we've been following that procedure for the last couple of years. Is that right?
That's right. So we've been complying the AB 2449. This would just extend it. So if a director had a situation where they needed to attend from a private meeting location for more than the number of maximum times permitted in the Brown Act, there may be an ability to do so.
What is the maximum?
It's essentially for us, it's twice a year.
Well, that's important to know. Are there any questions of Josh? And, and we don't have public
Does
comment.
Yeah, we don't have public comment, but we do have a hand up from Mr. Awotabi.
Thank you. Yeah, just a quick question, Josh. This is attendance of a meeting remotely without having to post one's particular location or having it be made available for access by the public, but yet disclosing those adults within the room. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. Yes. So you could attend from, as an example, a private home without making that location need to be listed on the agenda or publicly accessible.
Thanks. I just wanted to because I know we have a way of doing so. I mean, as I'm attending today, but of course from a public location that's remote. But I've noticed it. So thank you for that clarification.
Any other questions? Anyone else? Move to item B, the treasurer's report. Ms. Catano. Oh, no. Wait, oh, where is she?
Hi, Chair Milibur. This is Bernadette Robertson. I'm going to be giving the treasurer's report on behalf of Katana today, if that's okay.
Yes.
Okay,
proceed.
thank you. Thank you. So the following is the preliminary financial results for the Design and Construction Authority. The authority had a beginning cash balance of a little over $2 million as of June 1, 2024. For the month of June, we received $237,658 in receipts from the DCO. We dispersed $1,536,858 for the same period, which leaves us with an ending cash balance of $752,864 at June 30, 2024. I also would like to give you an overview of the balance sheet for the authority. So at June 30, 2024, the authority had $5,254,815 of outstanding receivables from the DCO. The authority had $1,023,073 of deposits and $76,331 of prepaid expenses, for a total asset of $7,107,083. On the liability side, the authority had outstanding obligations of $5,181,717 and $800,000 of advances from the DCO, which gives us a total liability of $5,981,717. The authority's net position at June 30, 2024 was $1,125,366. Please note that $1,023,073 of that is restricted for the deposits, which leaves us with unrestricted net position of a little over $102,000. The treasurer's report has attachments in there that gives you the details of all of the invoices paid for the full fiscal year, and the aging receivables and payables schedules as well. And attachment 2 has the budget versus actual. And please note, this is preliminary because the authority's financial statement is under audit right now by your external auditor, Macias, Genie, and O'Connell. That concludes my report, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Do we have any questions of Mrs. Robertson? A lot of numbers. I didn't memorize them, but I see them on the page. They're all big numbers. Thank you very much for your report.
Thank you.
We'll move on to communications, Valerie.
Good afternoon, board members. It's been 2 months, so there's a lot to report. One of the things we're looking forward to is Carrie Buckman and Graham Bradner and Dr. David Sunding did a recording of a podcast with What Matters Water TV with Charlie Wilson, who is with the Southern California Water Coalition. We anticipate that coming out in the next couple weeks. So that the goal there, again, is to continue to push out information about the project, about the cost estimate and the benefit cost analysis to a number of different audiences using a number of different platforms. And so using this podcast is another way to go about that. We have an Instagram page, so we're really excited about that. And we encourage everyone to please follow. This is, moving forward with our suite of platforms, including Facebook and YouTube and X, formerly Twitter. And now, of course, we have Instagram. We anticipate we'll be moving forward with a LinkedIn page as well. And again, we're hitting a lot of different audiences with a lot of different information. So we're really excited about that. We have a new fact sheet that's been posted in English, Spanish, and Cantonese and Chinese with regard to more specificity around the Bethany alignment. And we were also working on a video, which is in progress as we speak. Our team attended the Building Industry Southern California Water Conference just to kind of monitor and get information about what's being said about the project and such. It was a really great opportunity to hear how the industry itself is actually talking about the Delta Conveyance Project, and all positive, and people are really eager to move forward and get moving on this project. We were also we will be at the Urban Water Institute with, again, what we're doing is participating in more conferences. Again, to give people an opportunity to ask questions about the project. We have a lot of materials, fact sheets, videos, and then some that we want to make available to folks. And so what we tend to do is load up thumb drives and hand them out. We have screens there when we do these events or participate in these events so that people can look up, see the videos. Again, these conferences are a terrific avenue for reaching different kinds of audiences and providing that information and letting people know that this project is real and it's moving forward. We are continuing to do our digital outreach, which I typically speak to. Again, our open rates are incredible. People are really interested about the project and they really enjoy, our videos are off the charts, which is exciting. Carrie Graham and David Sunding have been doing kind of a roadshow of the cost benefit analysis, the cost estimate, and just an update on the project in general. At this point, I think we're counting 8 member agencies plus a few of those member agencies that they've done presentations in front of. Again, they're making the rounds and really trying to hit all the different organizations so that those communities and those directors can ask questions and have, you know, that one-on-one time with regard to the project. And then we have a new fact sheet for one of our member agencies, Crestline Lake Arrowhead, is up. And again, in English, Spanish, and Chinese, it's on our website. And we invite you to visit our website because everything I'm talking about is accessible via our website. So thanks so much.
Any other? I have to always press my button. Any other questions?
Just a comment, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Martinez, for all the efforts and you and your team, you know, have done in reaching out and more to come. Obviously, this is a big, you know, commitment, a lot of questions surrounding it. And I think to the degree that we're all educated to the facts, I think, you know, the better decision making that comes out of it. So again, appreciate your, you know, all your work.
So much.
Yeah, I'll echo that, and you have a new follower on Instagram.
Thank you so much, Director Luna.
Yes, I appreciate an itinerary of your presentations of DCA at various conferences and where and while you'll be making a presence.
I love that. And the more we'll see you at those events, Director, we, you know, again, we can work out kind of a choreographed situation where you ask the question and we answer and it's good stuff. So thank you so much.
But knowing where you are would be helpful.
Absolutely.
So, thank you.
You bet.
Yes, and the presentations with Graham and Dr. Sunding and who else was with? Oh, yeah, Carrie. You have to forgive me, Carrie. Anyway, those were really excellent. It provided a lot of great information, and having somebody as accomplished as Dr. Sunding working on those numbers, it was impressive. And I think recently you told us, Valerie, that somebody from the public something push back on the numbers and stuff like that. And he responded to those. Did that go okay?
I'm going to go ahead and let Carrie,
Is that Carrie?
Sure. So Dr. Jeff Michael from University of the Pacific did write a paper with some rebuttal to Dr. Sunding's evaluation, and Dr. Sunding has responded to that. So we do have a memo regarding that. It is available on our website if people are interested. Dr. Sunding responded and did not think that Dr. Michael's points had merit. So that's available on our website.
Good.
I'll also note that DWR sent out an e-blast today, which has a lot of the information, including the rebuttal in it. So check your email boxes, and I'm sure it's actually phenomenal as I'm going through the various things, trying to remember, okay, what did we do? What does that look like? It was a great reminder of the great work that's being done, both with DCA and with DWR.
Very helpful. Any other questions of Valerie? Okay, we'll move on to 7D. Carrie on the environmental.
Thank you, President Millibar. So a couple of updates on the environmental side. I think we've talked before that this year, our two main focuses are ESA and CISA compliance, so Endangered Species Act and California Endangered Species Act compliance, and then our water rates process. So the ESA and CISA processes are moving forward. The documents are all with the resource agencies for evaluation, so there isn't a lot going on our end while they are working on those documents. But the water rates process is gearing up. We had our first pre-hearing conference on Tuesday. This was focused on the schedule. So the Water Board has asked their Administrative Hearings Office to preside over the overall hearing. And so the Administrative Hearings Officer had the first pre-hearing conference to talk about schedule. We were able to provide some information from our perspective on schedule, and the protestants did as well. She will consider that to determine if there are any changes she would like to make to the initial schedule she has developed. There are two more pre-hearing conferences scheduled, one for October 17th and one for December 16th. They will both cover other administrative and procedural issues before the hearing begins. The hearing is scheduled to begin with policy statements on January 16th, and then the beginning of the cases on January 16th, and then the hearing will start with cases on January 30th. So those dates are all coming up, and so we're quite busily preparing for that.
Are those accessible to the public? I mean, can you go online and?
Yes, the state board has both a Zoom site for the active participants and then also a YouTube link. So anyone who wants to just watch part of it can join on the YouTube link, and we can make that available to everyone for the next hearing. It might be different from this one. So as it comes up, we can make that available.
Yeah, that'd be information. It's usually you get a better appreciation of the arguments and all both sides. So it's helpful to listen in on that. Are there any questions of Carrie? Robert?
Yeah, thanks, Carrie, for, the report. I think what caught my eye was the community benefits program, and it looks like we're coming to, a draft implementation plan. So, yeah, I think that's great. I didn't realize that we're that far along. So will that have some costs and projected costs in that, or is that just simply a policy guidelines?
So the idea of this is that it will be the next step towards implementation of the community benefits program. And really, a lot of the idea of this is to provide something to respond to. As we've been working with communities and asking a lot of questions, sometimes it's hard to develop ideas sort of from a blank slate. And so I want to sort of make sure we're really clear that this is an initial draft to discuss and edit and revise. It's not intended to be the final product. But there was information in the budget that the DCA developed this year. So the overall cost is $200 million of the community benefits program that will be reflected in the upcoming documentation. But the focus is more on implementation guidance. How would we administer fund?
In here.
I think I was done. So.
Was that a unexpected public comment?
No, that's actually staff probably dealing with a pet.
Okay. Any other questions of Carrie? From the other board members or anybody else here? If not, then I guess we have 7E verbal reports of any of the directors.
On a personal note and the second, a political note. I did get married about several weeks ago, so I've been on in a different world lifestyle and a direction and guidance. But second, I had the good fortune of not having a challenger for my next term for another 4 years. So currently have 29 in the book and hopefully make 33. Thank you.
Congratulations on both counts.
Yeah. All right. Future agenda items. Usually we don't have any of those, right? Okay, then we have this public comment thing where anybody can make a public comment. It doesn't have to be an agenda. It does have to pertain to DCA. And you can be limited if there's extended amount of comments. And did I leave anything out, Claudia?
I don't think so, President Millibar, but I defer to Josh.
No, yeah, no, you covered it. I think we can see if there's any requests.
So I do see that alternate director Palmer has her hand up. I'm not sure if she's requesting a public comment request or yes, she is in fact.
Yeah, we need to hear from her because, you know, your personality was not here today, but.
If you don't hear my voice, you're going to go through withdrawal. You know that. At any rate, I wanted to just kind of back onto the internship thing. I know that the California, the Special Districts Association of Alameda County is trying to look at scholarships for interns and scholarships for folks developing in infrastructure. And I just wanted to say that the program here has been just amazing in terms of really pulling together the ideas of both policy and infrastructure, because that is just not something that really gets covered in a lot of coursework. And again, my kudos to the DCA and the program on that. That's it.
Well, thank you. It's good hearing your voice. Hope you have a good rest of your week. And I guess we're adjourned, right?